What if everything you believe about suffering is wrong? Because the Buddha gave an answer most people completely miss. People came to Buddha with the same question, again and again. Why do we suffer? Why do pain and sorrow exist in a world so beautiful? Buddha listened. He listened not just to their words, but to the silence behind them. He looked at them quietly, and then he smiled. That smile, calm, deep, like a still lake reflecting everything without disturbance, wordless, contained the answer. He said, "Sometimes the deepest truths arrive without sound. You ask, why do we suffer? But before that, ask, who is it that suffers?" The question itself began to turn inward. The question fell into silence because the mind that asks why assumes that suffering is something done to us. But what if the source is closer than we think? Buddha said, suffering is not given by the world. It arises within. He said, suffering is born from attachment, from a subtle gripping that the mind refuses to see, holding on to what is changing. The moment you cling to a person, a moment, a memory, or even an idea of how things should be, a desire, you create the seed of pain. When the thing changes, as all things do, because change is the nature of existence, the mind resists. It cries, I have lost. But Buddha said, you have not lost anything. You were never the true owner to begin with. He compared it to clouds in the sky. They form, they dissolve, they form again. If you try to hold a cloud, it slips through your fingers. And yet we keep reaching again and again. Life is like that. The moment you hold, it begins to slip away. It escapes. The moment you let go, it flows. People asked him, then should we stop living fully? Not love, not desire, not hope, not dream? And Buddha said, he paused, letting the weight of the question settle. Love, yes, but without clinging. Desire, yes, but without blindness. Feel deeply, but remain free within. Hope, yes, but without fear. He was not against feeling. He was against imprisonment. He said, let life touch you completely, touch you deeply, but do not make a cage of it. Suffering, he explained, is not the wound of the world. It is the echo of our inner resistance to what is. He said, the arrow of life may strike, but the second arrow, the one we fire at ourselves, that is what causes pain. The first arrow is reality. It simply happens. The second is illusion. He said, the wise one sees the first, but never shoots the second into their own heart. Someone asked, then why is the mind always restless? Why does it cling even knowing the truth? Buddha said, because knowing is not the same as seeing. Because the mind is afraid of emptiness. It fears what it cannot control. It fears the silence from which it came. So it keeps running toward wealth, toward distractions, toward people, toward pleasures, toward gods, just to avoid being still. He said, the root of suffering is not just desire, it is ignorance. He said, the ignorance that believes I am separate. He pointed to a tree nearby. The leaf suffers when it forgets it belongs to the tree. The tree suffers when it forgets it belongs to the earth. Everything is connected beyond what we see. And man suffers because he forgets he belongs to existence. Suffering is the illusion of separation, the illusion that says, this is me and that is not. But when the wall breaks, when you see that the same breath moves through all, pain dissolves like mist in sunlight. A monk asked him, Master, is there a way beyond all suffering? Buddha smiled again. The way is not far. It is right here. He spoke of the Four Noble Truths, not as doctrine, but as a way of seeing. There is suffering. There is a cause. There is an end. And there is a way. And that way is mindfulness. the silent seeing of what is, without judgment, without grasping. When you see clearly, suffering ends by itself, like a fire that dies when there is no fuel. When desire is seen, not followed, it fades. When anger is seen, not fed, it dissolves. When fear is seen, not believed, it disappears. This seeing, this awareness, is the end of sorrow. And in the end, it says only this: awaken, and the suffering ends.